Hey all, this video series is a part of training course of SISU Motorsport Endurance team. It's a collection of most common mistakes that are rarely mentioned in other training materials. Based on my personal experience, some adjustments may be necessary for you. Less fluff, more to the point. Let's go. What about setups? I won't be talking about setup shops and all that stuff. I'm using iRacing setups with some adjustments by me. So we're taking iRacing setup. There are some options. For Le Mans, Daytona, you on Nürburgring try the setups with their name. For the tracks, you need to choose a packet. Usually it's high downforce, sometimes medium downforce, and probably sometimes you want to try low downforce, though it's pretty rare. So this is Algarve, Portimao. I assume this will be high downforce track because of a lot of high speed corners, but I'll try the medium setup too, just for the sake of trying. Okay, run the medium. Medium actually is fine. It's fine. The car was stable everywhere, so I will go with this setup. If you feel that it's unstable, try high wind setups. Usually it's a sort of default for GTCs. How to set up your car for your style. A lot of options here, but let's focus on two main things that could help you find a balance in the car. Depends on your driving. That's very, personal things. It's ARBs, front and rear, and brake pressure bias. Brake pressure bias is good because it's also available in fixed series, so you will always get this advantage. What is it? So what is anti-roll bar or sway bar? Anti-roll bar is this part. Let's highlight it. This torsion bar that controls the rolling of the car. When the car turning, it rolls to the side. For example, if we're turning right, then the car rolls on the left side. And it's undesirable behavior. All the way goes on left tire and may exceed its capabilities to grip. Right wheel lifts off and losing the grip, even may lose it completely, or the car itself even could roll over to the left, which is very suboptimal behavior. That's why we need anti-roll bar. Actually, no, we can control all this stuff just with the springs. So we can place a stiffer springs here, but this inevitably makes the front axle stiffer in all motion, like rolling and pitching. When we're braking, the weight goes on the front axle and the car pitch down. All these moves will be affected by the stiffer springs. So we can use instead softer springs and place anti-roll bar, which works at the additional spring, but only for rolling. And we see it connected through the one hole. In sport suspension, usually this part is longer and there are other holes which are represented in iRacing like numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stiffness of your front roll bar. The further it is, the softer the suspension. Big shoulder, less resistance from this bar. When we're turning to the right, for example, the weight goes on this wheel and arms go up. And this bar goes up too. Anti-roll bar tries to go up with it, but it resists this torsion motion, and ultimately this motion persist here, so this part going up too, trying to go up too, and move the suspension with it. So the car not rolling from the surface, but it tries to keep both wheels and the platform in a more stable position. It's pretty crucial, especially in high downforce car, because ride height, that's a big part of air packet due to ground effect and due to the whole geometry of car, the whole aerodynamic that built around the certain ride height. So to keep the car in stable state. So for example, when we are not using anti-roll bar or using soft anti-roll bar and turning right, weight goes here. For example, overall weight on the front axle is 1 ton. And if we have soft anti-roll bar, for example, we will have 800 kilograms on the left wheel and 200 on the right wheel. This wheel will have less grip, less tire contact patch. This will have a bigger tire contact patch. It looks okay, but you can exceed the grip capabilities of the left wheel. So it starts to losing grip, you start understeer, and the right wheel doesn't help it to turn. So that's why we're using stiffer anti-roll bar. So in this case, 600 kilograms on the left wheel and 400 on the right. Contact patch will be higher. Here contact patch will be lower, more equal. We can load both wheels, and overall we could get more grip because this wheel doesn't exceed in its capabilities. This will have more grip, so overall grip will be better. Tires don't have linear grip depending from the load. So for example, this is load, this is grip. If the load increases, the tire grip will not increase linearly. It will increase with some regression. Let it be something like that. If you put 1000 kilograms load, each wheel can have 500 kilograms, let it be here. But in our case, right wheel got 200 and left wheel got 800. Overall grip will be somewhere here. Overall grip of the axle of your car. As you may notice, the overall grip is lower than potential grip of the car. So if we put more equal load, 6 and 40, the overall grip will be closer to the optimal grip, to the maximum grip available. And that's what gives us better grip in the corner with more stabilized platform, and it's not taking into account aerodynamic forces. But of course, vehicle dynamic is much more complicated than this, and this plot is not representative at all. It's just to show the principle why anti-roll bar can help with the grip, and we don't consider a ton of other variables. For example, we have tires. Our ultimate goal is to have as much grip as possible from tires, and we have tires here. They set up usually with negative camber, and when the car rolls, we're still turning right, tire rolls too, so it gets better contact patch here. That means that these tires get less contact patch. Suspension work, damper work, tracks are not ideal, they have bumps, its own camber too. From the graph you may think that stiff anti-roll bar gives more grip, but actually no. It helps to control the platform, it helps to control the downforce, but overall what it does, prevent rolling and steal the grip from loaded wheel, and translate some of it to the right wheel, but it still steals the grip, so it makes the car understeer, and it's not always a bad thing, or oversteer if you make the ARB softer. So it's the main tool to control the car balance after brake bias, I guess, in real life, because it's easier to change the settings. And usually it's the last setting you're touching after making setup. So if you unravel in opposite direction to fix some issues, you start with the ARBs. So since this is an introduction video, let's stop at this stiff ARB. less grip. Softer ARB, more grip. That's all you need to remember from this. It's not as easy as it sounds, of course, a ton of nuances, and we are talking about mechanical grip only, not aerodynamical grip, but that's enough for start. Some theory about brake balance. So brake balance is a valve that controls how much brake pressure goes to the front wheel and how much to the rear, usually in a percent. So 55% brake balance means that front wheels will get this 55%. 45% will go to the rear wheels. When we're braking, the car pitch to the front. So the weight of the car goes to the front tires. And you can imagine these front tires should do almost all the work, and in case of front wheel drive cars, all the work. They are brake, they are turn, and in FWDs they are accelerating. So while we're braking, the most work lies on the front tires, but their grip is limited, of course. We want to use all our tires to extract as much grip as we can. So that's why we are using them for braking too. Yes, they have less weight, but they still can brake, and continuing to brake in the turning phase helps to reduce the braking load from front wheels and give them some traction to actually turning, while these wheels are still slowing down the car, and we get a good rotation on entry. So as you might guess, if you have too high brake balance, too forward-oriented brake bias, you won't have much room to brake and turn. Pick one. But if you don't brake enough to turn in, you'll have more speed than you can carry through the corner. So you need to add rear wheels into your braking stage. But if you add too much brake bias on the rear wheels, then rears will start to lock up, and this is highly undesirable situation, because if you lock front wheels, you just drive straight and you will have more control in the car. But if you lock the rear wheels, you will most likely just spin immediately, and it's hard to recover, especially in the braking zone. General rule is add as much rearward brake bias as you can handle without losing control, without locking the rears. If you lock your tires, if you apply too much pressure, first wheels to lock should be fronts. That's the ideal balance. But for this corner, at these conditions, on these tires, in this weather, for you, it's very, very individual settings, because we are applying different braking. We have different styles of braking, turning, and driving in general. So there is no an ideal brake bias in the car. You should adjust it for yourself. You may adjust it corner to corner. The harder is braking, the more front you want to use. But don't think about it now. Use the same brake bias for the all corners. It's too easy to screw up. Again, that's all for now. Let's go drive. Okay, let's try my default brake balance for the car. Car rotates nicely. And rotates nicely too. I set 22.3 in this sector. Let's try to add more front brake balance. Let's say 51%. Oh, you see, I struggle to turn the car. But tires are fresh, and they still could manage it. 22.6, but I think I can do faster. Let's go further first. 53. We had to reduce the pressure to turn the car, and it feels pushy. 22.5. Okay, you saw that I have to modulate brake more. I have to release the pedal to give more grip to fronts to turn the car. So the difference is not big, but it's still there. Let's see what happens if we go further back. Like 47. You saw my rear ABS was activating. Let's do with something more. Apparent 45. The car is very oversteery, it's hard to control. Rears always on the limit of their grip. The time is the same, but I had much more struggles to keep the car on track. And that's the point. You need to find the brake balance that keeps you on track easily and rotate nicely. So if you start driving and you feel that your car probably a bit understeer or just somewhere neutral, try to change brake bias, like turn it back for 1%. Do a lap. If it's still the same, turn it back. When you start feeling that your rear became unstable, uncontrollably unstable, then that means it's too much. Make a click back. Like this. You see, I'm always fighting against the rear. That's pretty apparent. You will feel it right when you experience it. Brake balance is good for tire control. For example, tire temperature control. For example, if you see that you're abusing your fronts, like abusing hard, they are warmer for 10 degrees or even 15 degrees, then move brake balance back a bit. In opposite case, do the opposite. So move brake bias in the direction of the colder tires, from hotter tires to colder tires. In the race, you don't always want the equal temperature on tires. It's fine if you have difference like 5, maybe 7 degrees, but anything more is hurting first your tire's life, hurting your grip, hurting your balance. So try to do this all the time. Like did a lap. If you see that your tires are hotter than the other axle, move brake balance to the colder axle. Of course, if you move it back and feel uncomfortable, move forward back. But you can see I'm driving, and usually at this track it's the front left that is dying first, that heating up first. But what do I have? I have hotter rear tires. This is the only tool that available for you in fixed races, so use it. It really can change the behavior of your car. Fixed setups usually have pretty conservative brake bias, especially in TCRs. In TCRs, loosely to the front, so move it back and try it. During the race, you also burn fuel, and fuel tank, for example, in Porsche at the front, so the front becomes lighter and lighter. You have to move your balance back. Like 3% during the stint is pretty normal movement for me, for example. Sometimes more, but usually never less. If I was in the car without ABS, I'd lock up my rears here. So brake balance more forgiving in the ABS car, of course, but it doesn't feel comfortable still. Whoa, you so much rotation. Okay, and we talked about ARBs. We have front ARB at 5 out of 7 and rear at 2 out of 7. You have to know that these numbers doesn't mean nothing, it's just a setting number. So 5 and 2, and for example, if I pick 4 and 1, well, they give relatively the same balance in my mind, but no, actually no, they don't work this way, so you have to try it. Let's drive the softest on the front and stiffest on the rear. So what should I get? Softest on the front. I will have more grip at the front, right? And have less grip at the rear. What does it mean? That means a huge oversteer. Here we go. Probably I need to fix brake balance at least. Or I won't make a single lap. Okay, let's try more traction. I'm trying to do a lap. The excessive oversteer, I think you already can feel. Very careful with pedal. Still not enough. It's a cold tires, of course. The car is dancing on the steering a bit. It feels a bit mushy. Doesn't feel sharp and precise. That's the side effect of the softer internal bars. The car bounced it on entry, so I couldn't make a really precise turn one. Overall, yes, I get a lot of oversteer on the back and not much response on the front. I would say the car is boaty, but you know, you sort of can control the boat, can predict where it goes, but this car have unstable grip on front. Sometimes it grips, sometimes it's not. So I don't feel connected to the car. It's very hard to stand on throttle. I'm alive because tires are new, they have a grip, but during this stint I would start to struggle. Okay, let's do the opposite then. Hardest front and softest rear. What do we expect? Hardest front, a lot of understeer. Softest rear, the rear will have a bit wonky but grippy, mechanically grippy suspension, so a lot of understeer and stability. Is it? Let's try. I expect that I have to move brake balance further backward, because it will be the rear axle will have more grip on braking, not more than the fronts of course, but more than it was in previous runs. Oops. Yeah, it doesn't want to turn. It feels plenty unstable, but very pushy. I'd say, but the car, you know, rolling a bit through the rear, and now the rear gets this unstable, bouncy feeling that that was on front previously. So it has grip, then after the bump, doesn't have grip. So as you may understand, although I said that softer front gives more oversteer, softer end more understeer, it's overall true, but there are nuances as always. The whole suspension and vehicle dynamics, I'm not expert here and even not a major here, so probably some of you in the commentaries would say how stupid I am, and that's fairly true. I'm just telling what I learned during my iRacing journey. The front doesn't have very good performance on the braking, and at the same time not very good performance on the trail braking. Well, that was mostly bad by me. But the rear is planted on the acceleration. Feels very good. A lot from the steer here. Yes, I think you got an idea, but well, I won't say it's easier to make lap times in such ridiculous setups, but as you can see, it's still okay. So what was that? It was 42.3 in this, 42.7 in oversteer. So when you set up ARBs, it's not like you're changing performance of your car drastically. No, don't worry to change this in setups. Brake bias, ARB settings, they all drivable, and well, they constructed by the engineers that know what they're doing. So it's not like this undrivable and this undrivable and this something drivable. No, they all okay and suitable for some situations. So don't worry to get mistake in these places. Don't worry to experiment with brake bias, with ARBs, with ABS, with traction control. I wouldn't show what do ABS and traction control because, well, I guess you know pretty well. But the higher ABS value is, the less slipping is acceptable, so the ABS kicks in earlier. And the same in traction. The less slip acceptable, the traction introduces earlier, but traction control cuts the engine power, so when you start accelerating, you want the power, you want the torque, but if you are in the zone of traction control, you are losing time here. So try to use lower ABS settings, especially on dry. If you feel that your rear is not very stable, that it may step out, that you have worn tires, increase it. That's okay. The same with ABS. It's harder to notice, but your braking path would be longer. But overall, you want to avoid ABS as much as you could anyway. So, and ABS increases the surface temperature of tire, reducing grip in the next 1 or 2 corners drastically. So try to stay out of ABS and be under the threshold. We will discuss all other settings somewhere in the future. For now, that's all you need about the setups, how to adjust prepared setup for your driving style. And when you adjust ARBs, for example, the setup have something like this, and you want to increase oversteer, for example, you may go 2 ways. You want stiffen the rear bar, or you may soften the front bar. Which one to choose? I advise you to always go into the softer direction first. So try to soften front, not to north, soften again, not to north, then you are out of options. You should try to stiffen. Then probably when you feel that you've got oversteer you needed, try to stiffen it a bit again to see how this change balance. That's it. Setups are a very complicated topic. I tried my best to make it acceptable, at least at first. Thank you. The next video will be about practices and practice. So it won't be tomorrow, it won't be on some day later. See you there.